friends, welcome back to my channel. My name is Erica, and in today's video I am bringing you episode 30 of Throwback Thursday. I got this idea from my dear friend Jan Van. Of course, I will link her channel in my description box. She's been doing Throwback Thursdays for quite some time, and she just really inspired me to do this series on my channel too. And I'm just loving it because I'm getting a lot of use out of my older palettes. And then of course I have to give a huge love-filled shout out to my dear friend and subscriber Dawn, who is my ultimate TBT cheerleader. So I've been doing like a tutorial series here for the last couple episodes of Throwback Thursday. A couple weeks ago, I did just a neutral look. And then last week I did neutrals with the pop of color. And this week I'm gonna do a colorful look. Now I'm gonna keep going with this series here because color, I mean, there's lots of colors and lots of different things you can do with color. So what I thought I would do for this episode is do a monochromatic blue look, because I think that a lot of times people really struggle with blue eyeshadows. And I know I did. I used to be terrified of blue eyeshadows. So I thought I would do that today. And then next week I will do a colorful look with a few colors that go together pretty easily. And then the last episode or series, or no, the last sequence of events here for this particular tutorial series, it'll be with colors that most people may not think go together very well. Some of you will be like, I can use any color, it doesn't matter to me. But this is just for folks that are just getting into makeup. Okay, my dear friend Julie asked for me to do a couple tutorials, and I've just kind of run with this. Okay, so for this episode, I'm going to be pulling in the BH Cosmetics Sweet Shop Bubblegum palette because, of course, it is an all blue palette. And I really love to do monochromatic looks. I know that some people find those very boring, but what I love about them is that you can create a beautiful gradient with the shades. That's usually what I'm going for when I do a monochromatic look. Not always, but that's usually what I'm trying to do, is just kind of have like a light to dark type gradient, dark to light, however you want to look at that. But I do know that, well, what I think anyway, is that a lot of people will open this palette up if they're new to makeup, and they'll look at the darker blues and they'll be like, oh God, that looks really intimidating. And it does look really intimidating. But there are ways that you can use dark blue shadows if you're just getting started that make it a little bit easier to put them on your eyelids. So what I'm going to be doing today is using the darker blues, or at least one of the darker blue shades, as my liner, because that's a way you can incorporate a darker shade into your look without actually putting it on your lids and blending it out and all the things that can seem really daunting and overwhelming. You can just use it as a liner. So that's what I'm going to do. And then I'm going to be using, obviously, like the lighter tones today, well, and some like mid-tone blues on my lids as well. So I do have my brows done. I just put some NYX Control Freak Brow Gel in clear, and then I did prime this eyelid in the Juvia's Place Prep Prime Eyeshadow Primer. Now, before I get started with my eye look, I want to remind you that I am not a professional makeup artist, which I'm sure all of you know that, and I'm not an expert. So take what I say here with a big grain of salt. You may not think that this is even remotely close to how you would put your eyeshadows on your eyelids. It's just the way I do it. I don't think anybody should do their makeup the way I do my makeup. I'm just showing you how I do it in the event that maybe I have some tips that might be helpful to you. And none of this might be helpful to you, but that's what I'm hoping for. I'm hoping that some of it will be. Okay, so for my transition shade, what I'm gonna do is use this shade right here called Bubbles, because it's like the mid-toned matte in this, you know, it's not super dark, but it's not super light. So I think that'll work really well for my transition shade. I'll use this shade here called Chili to blend this shade out. And then on my lids, or on my lids, but the shimmers, I think I'm going to use Blueberry and either Pop or Frozen. I might use Blueberry and Frozen. And then again, like I mentioned, I'm going to be using this darker shade here, Single Scoop, as my liner, or maybe Sweetened, maybe a combination of both. Not quite sure yet. And I will do my lower lash lines on camera today. Okay, so starting off with Bubbles, and I'm just going to use one of my Blend Bunny brushes. It's, you know, it's fluffy, but it's kind of a little bit more tapered, because I think this is a great style of brush to use for my transition applications. Okay, so I just dipped into the pan, got enough on that you can see the pigment. And what I'm going to do is just very slowly start to apply this. I think something that I learned right away with blue shadows is that initially, when you're first putting it on, less is more, right? I would not go just wild into a blue eyeshadow at first until you get real comfortable using it. Because it's just it's not the easiest color to fudge with. You know, like if you make a mistake, it's going to be a lot more obvious than if you were using neutrals. And you are going to make a mistake. I still make mistakes quite often, and that's okay. It's totally okay. I've learned so much more from my mistakes than I have from things I've done well with makeup, really. Because you learn what you don't ever want to do again, right? At least you try not to do it again. So basically, very similar in application as my other two videos that I've done for this little series here. I'm just kind of pushing it on the lid, not really going back and forth much, just kind of pushing it on the lid and just getting it to where the saturation is even across this bone right here. And just kind of taking my time and building it as I go. That's another thing too, and I've talked about this in the last two episodes, is building a shadow for me is just a lot easier. Like there have been times where I've put way too much on the brush and then went onto my lid and had this big like glomp of pigment, eyeshadow, whatever. And then it took me a long time to either blend it out or just get it to look like I wanted it to. So I've just learned that a little bit at a time, and then you just keep building, and then it usually works out pretty well. And you know, I know that this might be getting boring because I am kind of doing the same application for every look, but so what? So what? You know, this is how I feel comfortable doing my makeup. And if you feel comfortable doing your makeup the same every time, then fine. And if you don't, again, you don't have to watch. You don't have to get into this. You don't have to copy this at all, really. But I'm just trying to really reinforce just a particular application style so that you get comfortable with it, and then you can kind of branch out from there. I will be doing some different application stuff in the next couple of videos for sure. Okay, so I'm just still going back in and just kind of, you know, now I am kind of going back and forth in like circular motions just to kind of get the edge of that to blend out a little bit. And I'm pretty much done, actually. I'm just kind of like, I don't know. Sometimes I get going with my blending and it's hard for me to chill, or application. I don't know if I'm blending anything, it's just one shade. But yeah, I think I'm pretty much done here. So yeah, I think that looks really nice. It's not patchy, everything looks pretty even. I could maybe get a little bit more even, but I'm gonna continue to apply things as I go. So now let's go ahead and blend this out. I'm gonna use a shade here called Chili to do that. And for this, I'm just gonna use one of my, I think this is a Luxie brush, yeah. And it's just, you know, it's fluffy, but it's a little bit more dense. And I like the shape of this because it's not gonna blow my eyeshadows clear up to my eyebrows. If you wanna blow your eyeshadows clear up to your forehead, go ahead. I just like to kind of not do that with mine. So again, just enough to where you can see I tapped off a little bit of it, and I'm just gonna start out here and just kind of, I don't know, rub it onto my lid a little bit above, or just right around the outer edge of that, what was that shade called? Bubbles. And you know, the thing that I always struggled with at first with blue eyeshadows is I didn't want to look like Mimi from Drew Carey, you know? And I think if you're not used to using colorful eyeshadows, it is kind of jarring at first to see yourself with colorful shadows on your lids, like blue, green, pink, purple, red. It is a little like, you kind of just got to get used to it. And, you know, you may not ever be a blue eyeshadow fan, and that's fine too, you know? I think we don't all love all the colors of the rainbow, and I think you just kind of determine that as you practice with makeup. Like, is this a color that I even really like to have on? You know, you might be thinking, I would never put blue eyeshadows on my eyelids. But, you know, this is just obviously for folks that maybe want to do that. And you're going to hear from some folks here that monochromatic looks are boring, and that's fine. I mean, people are entitled to their opinions. Absolutely they are. But I wouldn't let anybody's negative opinions of things deter you from doing what you want to do with makeup. Because, you know, everyone's got an opinion. Everyone's got to be the, you know it-all expert. And I don't know. That gets old to me after a while. It's just like, okay. So I just say, forget it. Just do what you want. And I feel like this is getting kind of weird right here. So I might need to grab a different brush to blend this out with. Yeah, I feel like it's getting a little too compact, and it could be I think it's the primer. Let me look for another brush real quick. I think actually I'm going to use this one. Is this a Beely? Yeah, this is a Beely brush. It's just got a little bit more, it's not quite as compact as the one I was using. That's another thing. If you don't like the way a brush is performing for you, grab another one. You know, you're not stuck. You're going to dirty your brushes, sure, more than maybe you wanted to, but they wash. And I think it's just important to find the brush that works the best for you. And if you see that it's not working the way you wanted it to, then you just grab a different brush. That's it. It's pretty easy. You know, I see people putting makeup on, and if they have to, they get real kind of tense about having to, and who cares? They're just brushes. You just wash them. So I'm putting a little bit more of this on just because I feel like it's like getting stuck on the primer, which that's not the eyeshadow's fault. It's just, I have a little bit, I'm just trying to get it to blow up a little bit more, blend a little bit better. Okay, so what I'm gonna do now is go back into bubbles a little bit and just add a little bit more of that back, because I think I took a little bit too much away. And I'm thinking that if I add the bubbles in right here, it's gonna kind of break up that real, like, of that lighter blue. I went out of town over the weekend with my husband to celebrate his birthday, and we were in a really dry climate. And I can tell my skin is not real thrilled with it. I was like having kind of allergy type symptoms, and it was not fun I mean, we had a great time, but I was getting a little weirded out. My body was not really enjoying the dryness, which I thought it would love it, but it didn't. I don't know. But we had a really fun time. We went by Haley Falls, actually, which is that waterfall I based my look on when I did my collab with Itzel, and it's such a beautiful waterfall. I love it. I'll pop a picture up of the waterfall actually so you guys can see it. It's beautiful. Okay, I think that looks better. It doesn't look as good as I wanted it to because my skin right there is just being weird, but you know what? We're gonna move on. So I'm gonna use 3 shimmers across the lid. You're going to hear people tell you not to take your shimmers all the way out to your outer V, and whatever. I'm doing it. So I'm going to put Blueberry here, and then I will put, well, hold on, let me see if this is, actually, this is darker. So I'm going to put this Sweet Tooth out here, then I'm going to put Blueberry in the center, and then I'll put, I think, Pop towards the front, kind of have that gradient. That's what I'm going for. Okay, for the brush, I'm going to use this beauty here, one of my Doe Color brushes. I'm going to go into Sweet Tooth. And, you know, sometimes it's hard to tell which shade is darker. So I just say swatch them and hold them up next to each other. Because, like, I don't know, sometimes with the way I see color, I'm like, that's darker. No, it's not. Anyway, so sprayed it a little bit just to minimize the fallout. And I'm just going to start putting it out here. You just kind of smush it onto the lid. You know, smush and just kind of push. Smush and push. And there is going to be a harsh line right there, but I'll go back in with the matte and kind of spiff that up a little bit. But you want to make sure that you take it all the way down to your lashes, because sometimes I will notice that I don't take it down far enough to my lashes and I'll have like a peak of skin showing through. Something else I noticed in my last video, well, I don't know if it'll be my last by the time you guys see this, but in my 2 looks video with my Nomad Stargazing palette, I put a black matte out here, and on my other eye I didn't put enough, and so it was much lighter than the other eye. That's can be the tricky part of doing one eye on camera and one eye off, is that sometimes you don't see that until you're editing your video, and then you're like, oh shit. Okay, but so what? It's just eyeshadow. Okay, I'm gonna clean this brush off because I think it's a great size, and now I'm gonna go into Blueberry and put that in the middle. And what I do if I'm going to put more than a couple shimmers on is I just am mindful of how much space each shadow is taking up. So, you know, like this is almost half, well, it's about a third, yeah, third of my lid, you know. And now I'm going to put this here. Ooh, that's beautiful. Now, another thing too is that you don't necessarily have to have the mattes down. You can just use the shimmers. You know, like I could have just done without putting the mattes down, but I don't know. I just thought it would look nice to have the mattes around the shimmers, you know? That's kind of what I was thinking. But you can do an all shimmer look, no problem. And they're really fun to do, and I think they're beautiful. You could also do an all matte look. I think I already said that earlier, right when I started filming, but you know what I mean. Repetitive Nancy over here. Okay, and it looks great. These two shades are mushing together really well. I just kind of, you know, feather the brush over the two of those together. Another thing I think is important too when you're applying shadows is to make sure you have a good amount on the brush so that the shimmers don't look too airy. Some shimmer formulas are just airy, but these are not. So if you're using a formula like this, which is pretty damn opaque and buttery, and it's looking airy, just put more on your lid. So now I'm gonna go into pop. Just, you know, keep applying it until it gets that real opacity to it. Almost said opaqueness. I don't think that's a word. Okay. So I'm gonna put this right here. And, you know, I'm just obviously making sure that I'm keeping the brush right where I wanna put the shadow. You know, I think taking your time is a key to eyeshadow application too. Just go slow. You know, if you're hurrying to get to work and you've got like 10 to 15 minutes to do your makeup, I wouldn't do a look like this necessarily. I mean, it depends. You might just do and you're done. But, you know, I think colorful looks, for me anyway, take longer than a neutral look. Also though, well, there's been times where it's taken me a while to do a neutral look because the blending wasn't the greatest. But I would say give yourself enough time to where you have the time to do this and you're not hurrying and it's not stressful and you can just have fun with it. And remember, if you don't like how it looks, you can just take it off. You don't have to keep a look on your eyelids that you don't like, that didn't work out for you. You can take it off. Okay, I think that looks really nice. I do love the gradient from light to mid to dark blue. That's awesome. But again, I have that weird kind of wonky edge. So what I'm gonna do is take the Blend Bunny brush, go back into Bubbles, and just very carefully and lightly just kind of blend the outer edge. I don't wanna go too blendy though, because with a shimmer shade, a lot of times, if you start messing with them, they can really blow up on you. I've learned my lesson the hard way a few times where I had shimmers just all over. That's not really what I wanted. But you just kind of, you know, very softly just go around the edge of that shimmer and just try to diffuse it if you can. And just keep the brush right where you want the shade to stay. If you start getting real with it, it's gonna get too blown up. I mean, if that's what you're going for, then go ahead. But I'm just trying to keep it contained to this area, but just have a little bit more of a diffused edge. See how that's not quite as harsh as it once was? It's still a little harsh, but not as much as it was. And I'm just gonna go back into Bubbles a little bit and just do that again. Just kind of go around in little circles right around the edge here. Okay, now though, I wanna go back into Chili, the light blue matte with this fluffier brush and just kind of go around the edge of that too, so it's a little bit more diffused. And see, now that I've put the shimmers on, I don't even see that, well, a little bit, but I don't really see that weird patch that I had when I first started, that kind of like funky looking patch. It's pretty much chilled out now that I've applied the shimmers, which is great. You know, you can hide some stuff with shimmers. You can. That's what I've noticed too, is, you know, shimmers can be a little bit more forgiving with mistakes at times, or not mistakes, just kind of disguising stuff that you maybe don't love with your mattes. I think that's one of the things I love about shimmers too. Like all matte looks, if you make a mistake, it's going to be real obvious. With shimmers, not so much, I don't think. And you might disagree with me on that, but I just think it's easier to hide things that you don't love versus with mattes. Okay, so I did clean it up a little bit down here. You can still see a little bit of that shimmer fall out, but I'm going to cover it with a matte so it doesn't matter. And then I did put a little bit of my Maybelline New York Dream BB Fresh BB Cream in medium down here. I used to put concealer down there. I just don't like how it looks on me anymore. And it's just easier for me to apply the base product under my eye and then do my lower lash lines than vice versa, because I'll end up messing it up. It's just easier for me. Okay, so I think what I will use is this shade right here called Single Scoop. And I'm also going to use, rather than Sweetened, I'm going to use Bubbles. So these two on my lower lash lines, and then I'll just put this on my upper lash line. So let me grab a brush. Okay, so I'm going to start off by using this brush here, just, you know, an angled little flat brush. Oops, I have some foundation still on the back of my hand. Okay, so I'm going to go into Single Scoop, the darker blue. And with this type of application with a darker shade, you do got to be careful how much you have on the brush, because it'll fall out. And if you have your face makeup on, it's going to be a mess because it's such a dark blue shade. So just, you know, tap it into the palette or the shade, but then tap quite a bit of it off. I can still see it on there, but there's not a ton, because again, you can build. So I'm going to start right out here and just kind of push it into my skin right here, right under my lashes. I used to put eyeliner in my lower waterlines, and I don't do that anymore because if you are newer here, it started making my eyes water like crazy. And actually, I'm going to turn my fan off because it's making my eyes water. And it would just turn my eye look into a watery mess. It'd get real creasy. Also, it would make my eyes feel like crap by the end of the day. And I didn't like that. Okay, so I'm just still continuing to smush it on. But I miss doing it because I really liked how that looked on me. You know, I like how that looks on people. I love it. I think it's awesome. So I like that. I think it looks okay. It's looking a little funky down here, but no worries. I will go back and deal with that. I'm going to clean off this brush, and now I'm going to go into Bubbles and put Bubbles towards the front part. You can take the darker shade all the way. That's fine. But I just like a little bit of a lighter shade up here sometimes, especially with blues, because I just think it looks a little less harsh. But, you know, feel free to do whatever the heck you want. You can put shimmers on your lower lash lines, whatever. You know, I could have like mimicked right here, like these three shimmer shades. I could have put those down here too. I just decided not to do that. Sometimes with shimmers on my lower lash line, they tend to blow up, like kind of fall or like, I don't know, melt down onto my face. And I don't always love how that looks. So mattes are just easier for me. I feel like they just work better. And I just want to make sure it's nice and pigmented, that it's not patchy. Yeah. Okay, that looks awesome. So I do kind of want to though make that, it's already getting kind of bleedy right there anyway, but I want to make it look a little softer. So what I'm going to do is take the brush that I used for Chili. I'm going to go into Chili, just a teeny tiny bit, just a little bit, and then just kind of take the brush and just run it right at the base of that shadow. And just kind of go back and forth and just kind of try, if I can, diffuse the edge of the darker blue shade. If you like how that looks without doing this, just leave it. You don't have to do that, but I just like how it looks. Plus, I think it kind of helps tie this part of the look together, you know, so it's not like upper lid, lower lash line. And I kind of take it out here too, so it just kind of runs everything together. But again, totally not, I mean, none of this is a must-do thing, okay? I feel silly, honestly, doing tutorials because what the hell do I know? And a lot of you watching are probably thinking, not much, Erica, you don't know much. But I just want to really enforce that, like, you are the captain of your own boat here. You don't have to do what anybody tells you to do. And I also want to say, I'm not telling you you have to do anything. I don't hear anybody say you have to do or have, I don't know. Anyway, moving on. I have a lot of feelings about things, okay? If you couldn't tell. So I'm going to go into Single Scoop again, and I'm going to line my upper lid with this. Now, what I want to do here is I want to start up here and kind of angle it down just a little bit, not a ton, just a little bit. So what I do is I kind of start up a little higher, and then I just angle it down towards the lash line. And this might not show up all that well just because that shimmer shade's pretty dark. So I'm just going to kind of, you know, just keep adding blue, the dark blue matte, until I can really see a line here. and then I kind of turn the brush and just kind of, I don't know, smush it, kind of push, stamp it, maybe that's a better word, stamp it onto the lid. And I'm not really getting any fallout, so that's good. So can you see how it does have that darker blue line, even though that shimmer shade's pretty dark. So again, just continuing to go in, tap off, and then just keep adding. What I used to do too is I used to like really go like this, and then I would get tons of fallout down here. So I try not to do a whole lot of like swiping motions. I just do a lot of the stamping motion. And you can take this all the way down here if you want. But for me, when I do that, it like makes my eyes look smaller. And I do kind of want to have the illusion that my eyes are like a little bit bigger. So I don't take it all the way to the inner corner of my lid. I stop about like right here is what I do. And I'm just going to kind of try to make this a little bit more wedge shaped, a little bit right here, if I can. Yeah, I think it looks great. I like it. It looks really pretty. And it's great when you have a darker shade in the palette to use as a liner, because then you have to fart around with felt tip liners or gel liners or liquid liners or anything. You can just use the shadow. It's really an easy way to make your eyes look lined, because they are lined, but you're using the shadow in the palette. I like that. I think this looks great. So I'm going to go off camera, do my other eye, try to match it to this eyelid, and do the rest of my face, dry my hair, I'll come back. So this, of course, is my finished look, and I really like how it turned out. I just love to create monochromatic looks, and I know I've said this 1,000 times. I know it's not everybody's preferred eye look, but I just love to create a gradient across my lids, and I just thought it would be good starting off with more colorful looks for this series to pull blues in first, because I do think that blues can be kind of daunting and overwhelming, and I was trying to show that they don't have to be. Also, I meant to mention at the very beginning of my video that Jan does a series on her channel called Blue Mondays. So every Monday she uploads a video where she's creating a blue eye look, light, medium, dark, all different kinds of variations of blue looks, and they're just incredible. So if you'd like more in-depth or, you know, just varying blue eye looks, go to Jan's channel and watch her Blue Mondays series, because it is awesome. So let me show you all the things I have on my face, and then I'll talk to you guys about the palette again and wrap the video up. Okay, so of course on my face for my base product, I use the Maybelline New York Dream BB Fresh BB Cream in medium. Top that with my CoverGirl Clean Professional Loose Setting Powder in Translucent. For my mascara, I use the ColourPop Act Natural Defining Mascara. This is a mess. The tube is a mess. On my lips, I used a pink gloss because I just feel like pink works well with blue. This is the Tarte H2O gloss in Hang 10. I've had this forever, but it still works really well. For my bronzer, I use the Iconic London Medium Bronzing or Ultimate Bronzing Powder in medium. And then for my blush, I use the IBY blush in Sunkissed that's currently in my Def Leppard panning project. I've used it over the 10 times, so that's awesome. What else did I use? Is that it? Yeah, I think that's it. Okay, so now let's talk about the palette. BH Cosmetics Sweet Shop Bubblegum palette. I did use this shade right here called Frozen in my inner corners, and that added a nice icy pop of blue in my inner corners. I just think that this is such a stellar blue palette, and this is no longer available, but I found this at Marshall's. So maybe if you have a Marshall's or even a TJ Maxx in your area, keep your eye out, because, you know, these might be long gone by now, because these are older palettes. They've been out for a few years, a couple of years at least, 3. So you might not be able to get your hands on this exact palette, but there are tons of blue monochromatic palettes. Another really good one is the Blue Moon from ColourPop. And then there's the Blue Icy one from Glamlight that my friend Cece gifted to me. But there's tons of blue palettes. And let's see, the Allure 2, I think, from Juvia's Place is a smaller 6-pan blue eyeshadow palette that's amazing. Oh gosh, there's a lot. But what I love about this palette is the depth to the light, and then everything in between, or maybe not everything in between, but there's so many different hues of blue that you can definitely create a gradient across your lids. That's what I love to do with monochromatic looks. It's so fun. And, you know, I think sometimes people look at a monochromatic palette and they'll say, well, there's only like 1 or 2 looks you can do with it. That's not true. There's all kinds of stuff you can do with this. All mattes, all shimmers, you know, 2 and done. You can do, just focus on like, you know, one particular color, like, you know, you could just use these shades, these two shades right here, or these two shades, or these two, you know what I mean? Like, you don't have to, you can do more than just one thing with a monochromatic palette. You really can, I promise you. But my goal today was to show you that you can dip into blue eyeshadows. Just take your time and just go slow and not rush anything, and just put together a blue or an eye look with blue eyeshadows. You really can do it. And, you know, again, not the expert, not the professional makeup artist, but I just really want to, like, I don't know, share with you guys things that were helpful that I learned, and try to share them with you to see if they'd be helpful to you as well. And yeah, I hope you're enjoying this series. I'm excited to continue to use colorful eyeshadows in the next couple of episodes here for Throwback Thursday. Thank you guys so much for taking time out of your lives to sit down and watch this video. If you're new here and you enjoyed what you saw, please consider subscribing, smash the like button, and of course, comment down below in the comment section. I love to chat with you guys there. If you've been here before, thank you so much for coming back. I cannot wait to see you guys again in my next video. But in the meantime, please take very good care of yourself. Be well, safe, happy, and I will see you soon. Bye. Drop it.